Today, we're talking about how an invisible threat, climate change, is creating some very real, very big problems for places we rely on every single day, our seaports. You know, these aren't just docks and cranes. They're the arteries of our entire global economy. And right now, they are on the absolute front lines of a planet that's changing fast. So, let's dive in.
To really get a handle on what's at stake here, we need to make this real. So we're going to start with one single, dramatic story that shows you exactly what happens when the raw power of nature smacks up against our modern world.
So just think about this for a second. We build these unbelievable, massive ships, right? They're engineering marvels that carry pretty much everything we own across the oceans. But what happens when one of those giants comes face to face with a storm that's way, way stronger than the port was ever designed to handle?
Well, this isn't some disaster movie plot. It actually happened. At Taiwan's Kaohsiung port, a huge container ship, a true monster of the seas, was ripped from its moorings by the incredible force of a typhoon. It basically became a giant, unguided wrecking ball, and it just slammed into the dock, completely demolishing the cranes that load and unload cargo. Just like that, a vital link in the global supply chain was shattered.
Now, you might be tempted to just write that off as a freak accident, a bit of bad luck, but it's not. It's really a warning sign. It's a symptom of a much bigger trend, where all these different climate pressures are adding up to create a brand new and much more dangerous reality for our coasts.
What we're seeing is like an attack on multiple fronts at the same time. It's not just one thing. You've got rising sea levels, which are constantly pushing the water higher. You've got storms and typhoons that are getting way more intense, with stronger winds and bigger waves. You've got these insane rainfall events that just overwhelm drainage systems. Even the ocean getting warmer can damage infrastructure. It's like the perfect storm of threats, all converging on our ports.
And you know what? All of this ties back to one single crucial number: 2 degrees Celsius. That's the upper limit for global warming that was set by the Paris Agreement, and it's the backdrop for this entire conversation. Every tiny fraction of a degree we go past that target means more intense storms, higher seas, and way more risk for the ports we depend on.
Okay, so with all these threats coming from all these different angles, how do you even begin to figure out where the biggest risks are? How do you find the weak spots in the system? Well, it turns out experts have a pretty simple but really powerful way of looking at the problem.
The key word here is vulnerability. It's not just about what kind of storm a port might face. It's about how badly it'll get hit, and, this is the important part, how well it can bounce back. It's a much smarter way to think about risk than just looking at the weather forecast.
So vulnerability is really made up of 3 parts. First, you've got exposure. Simple enough, is your port built in a place that gets a lot of typhoons? Second is sensitivity. How tough is your port? Is the infrastructure old and maybe not built for today's storms? An older port is going to be way more sensitive. And third, you have resilience. This one's crucial. Do you have emergency plans? Backup power? How fast can you get back up and running? A port isn't really safe unless it's strong in all 3 areas.
So understanding the problem is one thing, right? But what are we actually doing about it? Let's take a look at the real concrete strategies sports are using to fight back and adapt to this new normal. Generally, the solutions fall into 2 big categories. You can think of them as hardware and software. The hardware solutions are the big physical things you can see and touch, building stronger walls, bigger drains. The software solutions are the systems and plans you put in place, the emergency rules, the smarter policies. And you absolutely need both working together.
And on the hardware side, we're talking about massive projects. This means literally making breakwaters and wharfs higher to deal with rising seas and bigger waves. It means completely re-engineering drainage systems for storms that used to be a once-in-a-lifetime event. And it means constantly doing health checks on older parts of the port and beefing up critical gear so it doesn't fail when you need it most.
Okay, now for the software. And we've got a great real-world example from Taiwan. After incidents like the one we talked about, they developed this super clear typhoon plan. The second a warning is issued, an emergency team is activated. The vessel traffic services track every single ship. All traffic in and out of the port is stopped, and any ship already docked is required, by law, to add extra mooring lines. It's a clear, step-by-step playbook to prevent chaos.
And here's a little detail that shows you just how serious they are about this. The plan specifies the exact number of mooring lines ships have to use. For any big ship over 10,000 tons, they need to secure it with a minimum of 7 lines. It's not just tie your ship down well. It's that kind of specific, enforceable rule that makes a plan actually work.
So fixing up the ports we already have is obviously critical.
But some places are thinking even bigger. Let's head over to Japan, where they're taking this incredibly innovative approach not just to build resilient ports, but to build entire resilient coastal cities.
Japan's strategy is just so smart. They're designing infrastructure for dual use. So, see that nice public plaza by the water? Normally it's for concerts and people hanging out, but when disaster strikes, it's pre-designed to instantly become a central hub for getting out emergency supplies. That regular cargo wharf? It's also a designated priority spot for rescue boats. Every piece of the puzzle can serve two purposes. It's brilliant.
And their plan goes even deeper. They build certain wharfs to be earthquake-proof, so that even after a major shake, the port can still operate. They have emergency roads already mapped out to keep supplies moving. And maybe the smartest part of all, they plan for inter-port cooperation. If one port gets knocked out, they already have a plan to use other ports nearby to bring in aid by sea. It's all about planning ahead and working together.
So, we've been talking about typhoons and breakwaters and logistics hubs in places that might feel a long way away. But why does any of this actually matter to you, in your life? Well, the connection is probably a lot more direct than you think.
Here's the bottom line. Just look around you right now. The phone or computer you're using, the coffee in your cup, the shirt on your back, there's an extremely high chance that all, or at least parts, of those things came through a seaport. These ports are the invisible gatekeepers of our modern life. When they have a problem, the supply chains that stock our stores grind to a halt. Securing our ports isn't just some big engineering problem. It's about securing our entire way of life.
And that really leaves us with one last big question to think about. In a world that's so connected, where a storm on one side of the planet can mean empty shelves on the other, are our global supply chains really only as strong as their most vulnerable port?